Everybody is out here wondering what the PlayStation 5 will look like, what games the system will have at launch, and pondering over how the overall performance will compare to its competitors. But there's one other aspect that's got me curious. Video game box art. Spines. Yep. I've always been one to appreciate a good bit of box art, even going as far as to having made my very own when I was younger, purely for fun. It's a great way to express a whole game's gameplay, ideologies, and overall offerings in one single artistic manner. Especially video game box art spines. Oh boy, I do love me a good spine. Spines have the very important job of selling a piece of media through the slimmest of widths. They're also the side to most of our purchases that end up being the part that we actually see more than any other. Apart from the odd game that gets the special honour of being worthy of displaying the front artwork for, the majority of our collection sits on a shelf, each one participating equally to a nice library of games. And one of my favourite collections to collect for is of course the Sony PlayStation. From the PS1 all the way through to the PS4, PlayStation has become synonymous with the colour blue, just as Xbox has with green. But the box arts haven't always reflected that. The OG PlayStation went with deep blacks and with bold white font. Simple but effective. It kind of reflected the console's intention to appeal to an audience of people who may have thought that they had outgrown gaming, or simply thought that the medium lacked maturity. The PlayStation 1 actually has a few variations of case design as well. The PAL copies are different entirely to their NTSC counterparts, for example, and less resemble CD cases in that sense. The games are easier to distinguish due to being slightly larger along the spines, and are just more pleasing to collect. We did actually even get larger cases for a while as well, literally like 2 times the size they ended up sticking with. For us PAL regions, the PS2 continued the black and white approach, even bringing on the same multicoloured PlayStation logo, a consistency between the first 2 generations. Although the PS2 did actually invert the white text on black, but still allowing for a very uniformed look when collecting. Well, unless you're EA Sports, I guess. The NTSC went for more of a loose approach, allowing for companies to simply put their actual game logos on the spines, as well as having a bit of colour in there as well, which, yeah, does end up looking very attractive in its own right as a collection. With the increased height added from adapting the DVD cases, they also smacked the actual PlayStation 2 name on there as well. It's also an updated layout that they applied to the PSP at the same time. The PlayStation 3 upgraded from the DVD approach and turned blue. Though they originally thought going for a dark red look was a good idea, as well as the Sam Raimi Spider-Man font for the logo itself. I'm not sure exactly what they were going for with the red approach, or why they switched out the original font for the Spidey one, but they did? Luckily, they did soon change their mind and release an updated look during the PS3 run with new font and a more clear logo as well. And despite causing glaring inconsistency amongst a PlayStation 3 collection, it admittedly doesn't just scream the number 3 at you anymore, like the previous layout seemed to do at first glance. It also just looks nicer in general, and feels less like a generic looking sticker some shop would just put on the side of the games when cataloguing their stock. It went back to that more mature approach, and just has a more appropriately modern look to it throughout its more unique font choice. They did still place a little thin strip of red to separate the logo from the game's title along their spine. I suppose mostly as a way for them to still be sticking to their guts as making red the PlayStation 3's colour? Maybe? It's a refreshing look that they later applied to the PS Vita as well, which I always saw as cute miniature copies of PS4 games. It was a nice way to unify the different platform releases into the same brand, and makes collecting all things PlayStation that bit nicer to bunch together. And then we got the PS4 box art. This is actually something that I remember seeing for the very first time, because at first I didn't like it. It was the change from the mature black at the top of the spine artwork to the primary dark blue that just seemed off to me. And it's odd, because looking at them now, I actually really like the blue. Whilst the PS2 console itself was the first to associate itself directly with the colour blue through it being on the console itself in the logo, the PS4 was the first to do anything blue with its actual game cases. It just looks fun as a collection and gives the collection its own individual personality from the others. I mean, I'd still say I prefer the look of the PS3 games, but I do like each generation changing it up a little to give each one their own identity. The PlayStation 4 put the logo back in at the top, where the PS3 had simply gone experimental and left space for the plastic casing instead, which I also liked to be fair, and replaced that red line with a white line. It actually feels more like a continuation of some of the PS3's special slipcover releases that I've also got, almost as if they were beta testing the PS4 box art here. And now we have the question as to what the PlayStation 5 will have to offer in terms of its box art. It's something that I'm genuinely concerned over. One thing I'd love to see the PS5 box art carry over from the previous lot is that line. It might seem redundant at first, but when you actually put a PS3 case up against a PS4 case, it's fun to see how their red line and white lines actually line up perfectly together. It's another way of forming a consistent quality across generations. In fact, that same line seems to have continued from the PlayStation 2 and PS1 as well. It's a pattern across all 4 generations so far that basically feels too deliberate to be a simple coincidence. And from that little scientific research, I feel pretty confident in saying that this will be a thing continued over to the PS5. So yeah, if you haven't gathered from that, I'd at least like to see the PS5 artwork carry on with this trope in both title and line placement. As for what type of cases they'll be going for, it'd be nice for them to stick with the Blu-ray standard type of case, especially if you want to mix PS3, PS4 and PS5 titles into the same collection. But at least if nothing else, Sony is still allowing us so-called collectors to cling on to yet another generation of our precious disposable physical media.